Admiral Reed stood at the command center of the Imperial flagship Star Sovereign *, his hands clasped behind his back as he watched the massive display screen before him. The blue-white glow of countless tactical readouts reflected off his perfectly polished rank pins. At 70 years old, he had conquered 17 worlds, and Earth would be his 18th victory before retirement. "Status report," he commanded, his voice carrying the weight of 4 decades of military service. "All ships are in formation." "Admiral," responded First Officer Collins from his station. 9,847 warships present and accounted for. Another 212 support vessels maintaining proper distance behind the main fleet. Reed nodded, allowing himself a small smile. This was the largest invasion fleet ever assembled in the history of the Imperial Armada. The ships stretched out for millions of kilometers in every direction, their quantum drives leaving slight ripples in space-time that looked like heat waves on a summer day. "Time to Earth's solar system?" Reed asked, though he already knew the answer. He had checked it 20 times in the past hour alone. 4 hours at current speed, sir," Collins replied. "We're maintaining standard approach velocity to keep the fleet synchronized." Reed walked to the tactical station, where Lieutenant Banks was studying the latest intelligence reports. "Show me what we know about Earth's defenses." Banks pulled up a holographic display of the Sol system. "Primitive, sir. They have basic space stations in low orbit, some mining operations on their moon, and a small research base on Mars. No quantum technology detected. Their fastest ships still use chemical rockets. Weapons, chemical explosives, basic laser systems, and nuclear warheads. Nothing that could scratch even our smallest support ship's shields." Banks shook his head. "They won't know what hit them." Reed frowned slightly. Something about this felt too easy. "And their technological progress?" "Unusual pattern, sir." Banks brought up a graph. "They advance quickly in some areas, then seem to plateau for no apparent reason. Their computer technology is surprisingly advanced, but their space travel is decades behind where it should be. It's like they're focusing on different priorities than most civilizations." "Interesting." Reed stroked his chin. "Population: 8 billion spread across their planet, mostly concentrated in urban areas. Their military forces are divided into regional commands, but they do have a unified space defense organization." Reed turned back to the main display, watching as his fleet pushed through the darkness between stars. Each ship was a masterpiece of Imperial engineering, powered by quantum cores that bent the fabric of reality itself. Their weapons could reduce planets to ash. Their shields could withstand the force of a supernova for brief periods. And yet, "Sir," Collins interrupted his thoughts. "You seem concerned." Reed shook his head. "Just being cautious, First Officer. In 40 years, I've learned that the easiest-looking victories can hide the worst surprises. But, sir, they're primitives. They don't even have proper space weapons." "Neither did the rock peoples of Centauri B," Reed reminded him. "Until they started throwing asteroids at our fleet. Lost 3 good ships that day because we underestimated their creativity." Reed walked to the front viewport, staring at the distant pinprick of light that was Sol, Earth's star. In a few hours, they would arrive, and another world would join the Empire. It was inevitable. It was his duty. So why did he feel this nagging doubt? "Maintain course," he ordered finally, "but run continuous scans. I want to know the moment anything unusual appears. And keep our shields at maximum strength." "Sir, that will drain our quantum cores faster," Collins protested. "Better to arrive with depleted cores than not arrive at all," Reed said firmly. "Something about Earth bothers me. They're too calm, too focused on their own planet. Every civilization we've encountered has reached for the stars as soon as they could. These humans, they're different. I want to know why." As the fleet continued its approach, Reed couldn't shake the feeling that he was missing something important. But with such overwhelming force at his command, what could possibly go wrong? The answer, he would soon learn, was everything. Commander Joan Thompson walked calmly through the underground halls of Earth Defense Command, her footsteps echoing off the steel walls. Red warning lights flashed silently overhead, but nobody was running. Nobody was screaming. The calm was almost unsettling. "Status update," she called out as she entered the main control room. The massive chamber was filled with rows of computer stations, each occupied by an operator wearing the blue uniform of Earth's Unified Defense Force. "The alien fleet just passed Neptune's orbit, Commander," reported Captain Ross from his station. He pulled up a three-dimensional map of the solar system, showing thousands of red dots moving steadily toward Earth. "Our deep space sensors confirmed 10,059 ships in total. It's the largest fleet we've ever detected." Thompson nodded, taking her place at the central command station. "And our preparations?" "The Quantum Observation Network is ready," said Dr. Wilson, the lead scientist. She was an older woman with gray hair and steady hands that hadn't trembled once since the fleet's detection. "All satellites are in position but remaining cloaked. The aliens haven't detected them." "What about their weapons?" Thompson asked, studying the tactical displays. "Beyond anything we've officially developed," Ross replied. "Each of their larger ships carries enough firepower to level a continent. Their shields appear to be powered by quantum technology, just like our intelligence suggested." Thompson allowed herself a small smile. "Exactly as we expected." A junior officer approached with a tablet. "Commander, we're receiving transmissions from several world leaders. They're demanding to know our response plan." "Tell them the situation is under control," Thompson replied. "Remind them that they agreed to give us full authority in case of alien contact. That's why they created this command center in the first place." "Yes, Commander." The officer hurried away. Thompson turned to Dr. Wilson. "How long have we been preparing for this?" 30 years, Wilson answered, adjusting her glasses. "Ever since we first detected quantum signals from deep space, we knew someone would come eventually. That's why we kept our space program looking primitive. Why we focused on developing our observation technology in secret." A new alert flashed on the main screen. Captain Ross straightened in his chair. "Commander, the alien fleet is broadcasting a message. It's being transmitted on all frequencies." "Put it through," Thompson ordered. A deep voice filled the command center, speaking in perfect English. "This is Admiral Reed of the Imperial Armada. Your world has been chosen to join the Empire. Surrender now, and you will be granted status as a protectorate world. Resist, and we will be forced to demonstrate our power. You have 1 hour to respond." Thompson pressed a button on her command console. Record message. She spoke clearly and calmly. "This is Earth Defense Command. Turn back now. This is your only warning." She ended the transmission and turned to her crew. "Start the countdown. When they pass Mars orbit, activate the Quantum Observation Network." "Do you think they'll turn back?" Ross asked quietly. Thompson shook her head. "No. Their kind never does. They believe too much in their superior technology. They never stop to think that someone might understand it better than they do." She walked to the large window that looked out over the underground chamber. Hundreds of personnel worked at their stations, each trained for this moment. Humanity had spent 3 decades preparing for this day, deliberately appearing weak while building the perfect defense. All these years, Thompson mused, they'd probably thought we were primitive because we didn't reach for the stars. They never considered that we were studying them instead, learning their weaknesses, preparing. She turned back to her crew. "Get ready, everyone. We're about to change the galaxy forever. And we won't have to fire a single shot to do it." The red dots on the tactical display continued their steady approach toward Mars, unaware that they were flying straight into humanity's trap. The most powerful fleet in the galaxy was about to learn that true power didn't come from weapons or ships. It came from understanding. Admiral Reed read Earth's response for the 10th time, his face growing redder with each reading. "Turn back now. This is your only warning." Such a simple message, Such impossible arrogance. They can't be serious, First Officer Collins said, standing beside his commander. They must know about our previous conquests, about the worlds we've taken. Reed walked to the tactical display, where the red dot representing Mars grew steadily larger. Put me through to the entire fleet. When the communication officer nodded, Reed spoke with the authority of a man who had conquered 17 worlds. This is Admiral Reed to all ships. Earth's response shows their primitive understanding of their situation. They will learn, as all others have learned, that the Empire cannot be denied. Maintain course and battle formation. Prepare all weapons. He turned to Lieutenant Banks at the sensor station. What's the status of their defenses? Still nothing significant, sir, Banks reported. We detect their orbital stations, some primitive satellites, and... He paused, frowning at his screen. What is it? For a moment, I thought I detected some unusual quantum readings, but they're gone now. Probably just background radiation from their star. Reed walked to the front viewport, watching as the distant blue dot of Earth became visible to the naked eye. Their warning bothers me. Most primitive worlds either beg for mercy or make grand threats. This was different. Too simple. Too confident. Sir, Collins said carefully, you're not actually worried about their warning, are you? Reed turned to his first officer. Let me tell you something about military history, Collins. The most dangerous enemies aren't the ones who boast about their power. They're the ones who quietly wait, knowing something you don't. A new alert flashed on the main screen. Captain Mills at Communications straightened up. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from our advanced scout ships near Mars. Put it through. The voice of Scout Commander Turner filled the bridge. Admiral, we're detecting some unusual energy readings in the Mars sector. Request permission to investigate before the main fleet arrives. Reed considered this for a moment. Granted, but maintain contact. If you detect anything unusual. The transmission suddenly cut off. Get them back, Reed ordered. Mills worked at his console. I can't, sir. They're just gone. All 4 scout ships. Reed's eyes narrowed. Cause? Unknown, sir. No weapons fire detected. No explosions. They just stopped transmitting. The bridge fell silent. Reed walked slowly to his command chair, his mind racing through possibilities. In 40 years of service, he had never lost ships without a trace. There was always debris, radiation, something to explain their fate. New message from Earth. Sir, Mills reported. Display it. The same simple text appeared. This was your final warning. You have crossed the line of no return. Reed stood up. All ships, raise shields to maximum power. Divert auxiliary power to the quantum cores. Whatever happened to our scouts? Sir, Banks called out urgently. Multiple quantum signatures appearing throughout the system. Thousands of them. They're everywhere. Reed watched in astonishment as his tactical display lit up with new contacts. They had appeared from nowhere, surrounding his fleet in a complex 3-dimensional web. Weapons, he demanded. No weapons signatures, Banks reported, his voice shaking. But the quantum readings, sir, I've never seen anything like this. They're not normal devices. Reed felt a chill run down his spine as he realized the truth. Earth hadn't been primitive at all. They had been waiting, preparing, and he had just led the pride of the Imperial fleet into their trap. All ships, hold position, he ordered. But even as he gave the command, he knew it was too late. The trap was about to spring, and the most powerful fleet in the galaxy was caught in it like a fish in a net. Back on Earth, Commander Thompson stood in the Defense Command Center, watching the Imperial fleet's position on the main screen. Their ships had just passed Mars orbit, exactly where Earth wanted them. All stations report ready, Captain Ross announced. The quantum observation network is fully charged. Thompson nodded. Send the activation signal. Dr. Wilson typed a series of commands into her console. Around the solar system, Thousands of hidden satellites simultaneously powered up. Each one was a marvel of human engineering, designed not to destroy, but to watch. Quantum observation field activating in 3, 2, 1. In space, the satellites began their work. Each one focused immense scanning power on the Imperial fleet, observing their quantum drives at the smallest possible level. It was like putting the entire fleet under a microscope that could see individual atoms. Aboard the Star Sovereign, alarms began blaring. "Admiral," Lieutenant Banks shouted, "our quantum core readings are fluctuating. Something's interfering with the quantum field." Reed rushed to the engineering station. "What's happening to my ships?" "Sir, we're being watched," the engineer said, confusion clear in his voice. "Thousands of devices are scanning our quantum drives at the subatomic level. The quantum uncertainty field is collapsing." Reed's face went pale as he understood. In 40 years of space combat, he had never encountered anything like this. Shut down the quantum drives. Switch to backup power. But it was too late. Throughout the fleet, quantum drives began failing. The mighty warships, each capable of destroying entire continents, started losing power. Their advanced weapons, their impenetrable shields, their faster-than-light capabilities, all of them relied on quantum uncertainty to function. "Sir," Collins reported, his voice shaking, "we're getting distress calls from all ships. Their quantum cores are shutting down. Life support systems are switching to emergency power." On the bridge of the Star Sovereign, the main lights flickered and died, replaced by the dim red glow of emergency lighting. The mighty flagship, pride of the Imperial fleet, was being reduced to a powerless hulk of metal by the simple act of being observed. Back at Earth Defense Command, Thompson watched as thousands of red dots on her display turned yellow, indicating disabled ships. "Status report," she ordered. "The quantum observation field is working perfectly," Dr. Wilson reported. "Their quantum drives can't function while being observed at the quantum level. Basic physics. The observer effect. They never thought anyone would use it as a weapon. Any ship still operational?" "None," Commander Ross answered. "Their entire fleet is dead in space. They have maybe 6 hours of emergency life support power left." Thompson picked up her communicator. "This is Earth Defense Command to Imperial Fleet. Your ships are now under our control. Your quantum drives will not function as long as our observation network remains active. You have 2 choices: surrender or wait 6 hours for your life support to fail. The choice is yours." On the Star Sovereign, Reed listened to the message in stunned silence. His mighty fleet, the most powerful armada ever assembled, had been defeated without a single shot being fired. They had been beaten by a simple principle of quantum mechanics that his people had never thought to weaponize. "Sir," Collins said quietly, "we're receiving surrender signals from multiple ships. They're asking for our orders." Reed looked around his darkened bridge, at the powerless displays and the frightened faces of his crew. In the viewport, Earth shone bright and blue, no longer looking primitive at all. "Send the signal," he said finally. "Tell Earth. Tell them the Imperial fleet surrenders." The most powerful fleet in the galaxy had fallen to Earth's defenders without a fight, defeated not by superior firepower, but by superior understanding of the universe's most basic laws. 2 hours after the surrender, Admiral Reed stood in Earth's Defense Command Center, his pristine uniform now wrinkled from the emergency evacuation of his flagship. He watched in silence as Earth rescue ships helped evacuate the crews of Imperial vessels, whose life support systems were running critically low. "Would you like to understand how we did it?" Commander Thompson asked, gesturing to an empty chair across from her desk. Her office overlooked the main control room, where dozens of operators coordinated the massive rescue operation. Reed sat down heavily. "Please, in 40 years of service, I've never seen anything like this." Thompson pressed a button, and a hologram appeared between them, showing a simple diagram of a quantum drive. "Your entire empire is built on quantum uncertainty," she explained. Your faster-than-light travel, your weapons, your shields, they all work because quantum particles can exist in multiple states at once. Of course, Reed nodded. That's basic science. Everyone knows this. But did you ever think about why quantum uncertainty exists? Thompson smiled. It exists because quantum states collapse when they're observed. Your scientists knew this, but they never thought about it as a weapon. Reed's eyes widened as understanding dawned. The satellites, they weren't weapons at all. They were observers. Exactly. Thompson expanded the hologram to show Earth's satellite network. We spent 30 years building the most sophisticated observation system ever created. Thousands of satellites, each capable of watching quantum states at the subatomic level. When we activated them, our quantum drives couldn't maintain uncertainty. Reed finished. They couldn't exist in multiple states anymore. They had to choose one state or another. And they chose to fail, Thompson concluded. We didn't attack you. We just watched you. Very, very carefully. In the control room below, another group of Imperial crew members was being led in, looking tired but relieved. Earth's medical teams were checking each one, providing food and water. Why are you helping us? Reed asked quietly. We came to conquer your world. Because that's what humans do, Thompson replied. We defend ourselves when we must, but we help when we can. Right now, your crews need help. A young officer entered with a tablet. Commander, we've received messages from 17 other worlds, the ones the Empire conquered. They're asking for our protection. Tell them we'll discuss terms once we've finished rescue operations here, Thompson said. The officer nodded and left. Reed stared at his hands. We thought we were so advanced. We conquered worlds with our superior technology. But you understood that technology better than we did. You saw its weakness. We had a lot of time to think, Thompson explained. While your people were busy conquering the galaxy, we were studying, learning. We saw your ships years ago and knew you'd come eventually. So we prepared. But why didn't you develop quantum drives yourselves? You clearly understood the science. Thompson laughed softly. Who says we didn't? We just didn't use them. We knew they were vulnerable, so we developed other methods. Methods you never detected because you weren't looking for them. Reed looked up sharply. Other methods? You mean? Earth isn't primitive, Admiral. We're just careful. Very, very careful. And now, she gestured to the busy control room below. Now the galaxy knows it. Through the window, Reed could see his mighty fleet, now dark and powerless, being towed into safe orbits by Earth's primitive ships. In a single day without firing a shot, this supposedly backward world had changed the balance of power in the entire galaxy. What happens now? He asked. Thompson's expression became serious. Now, Admiral, we teach the galaxy a better way. Starting with the Empire. 1 week after the Imperial fleet's surrender, the Grand Meeting Hall of Earth's Defense Command was filled with representatives from across the galaxy. Admiral Reed stood at the podium, facing not just Earth's leaders, but also delegates from all 17 worlds his fleet had conquered. As Supreme Commander of the Imperial Armada, Reed spoke clearly into the microphone. I hereby formally surrender our forces to Earth's authority. Our 10,000 ships and crews are at your disposal. Commander Thompson sat at the central table, flanked by Dr. Wilson and Captain Ross. She studied the faces in the crowd, some human, some very alien, but all showing the same mix of hope and uncertainty. We accept your surrender, Thompson replied, standing. But Earth has no interest in becoming a new empire. Instead, we have a proposal for everyone here. She nodded to Dr. Wilson, who activated the room's holographic display. A new design appeared, a satellite similar to Earth's quantum observers, but with obvious modifications. We're offering to share our quantum observation technology with every world in this room, Thompson announced. Not as a weapon, but as a shield. Each world will have the power to defend itself against quantum-based attacks. Murmurs filled the hall. A delegate from one of the conquered worlds stood up. But what's to stop others from using this technology as a weapon, just as Earth did? Thompson smiled. Because we're not just sharing the technology. We're sharing the counter to it as well. Dr. Wilson changed the display, showing a new type of quantum drive. Earth's scientists didn't just study how to stop quantum drives, she explained. We also developed ways to shield them from observation. We simply chose not to use these drives ourselves until now. Reed stepped forward. You're giving away your advantage. Why? Because true peace doesn't come from having the biggest weapon, Thompson replied. It comes from balance, from understanding. Every world will have both the shield and the counter-shield. No one will be able to conquer anyone else. And the Imperial fleet? Another delegate asked. What happens to them? That depends on them. Thompson turned to Reed. Admiral, Earth has a job offer for you and your crews. Reed raised an eyebrow. What kind of job? Peacekeepers, Thompson said simply. Your ships, once repaired with new quantum shields, will patrol trade routes, protect smaller worlds from pirates, help with natural disasters. The same power you once used to conquer will now be used to defend. The Admiral was quiet for a moment, looking at his former enemies. You trust us to do this. We trust that you've learned the same lesson we did, Thompson replied. That true strength isn't about having the most powerful weapons. It's about having the wisdom to know when not to use them. She addressed the entire hall. Earth remained isolated for years not because we were primitive, but because we were learning, watching, understanding. Now we're ready to join the galactic community, not as conquerors, not as victims, but as teachers and protectors. The hall erupted in applause. Representatives from different worlds began talking excitedly among themselves, former enemies now discussing cooperation and trade. Captain Ross leaned close to Thompson. Do you think this will work? Look at them. Thompson gestured to the hall, where humans and aliens were shaking hands, making plans. An hour ago, they were enemies. Now they're talking about building a better galaxy together. All because we showed them a different way to think about power. Reed watched the scene with a mix of wonder and respect. You know, he said quietly to Thompson, in 40 years of conquest, I never once saw anything like this. A victory celebration where even the defeated are happy they lost. Thompson smiled. That's because this isn't a victory celebration, Admiral. It's a graduation ceremony. The galaxy just learned a very important lesson about the true nature of power. And around them, the future of a more peaceful galaxy was already taking shape. 1 year after the surrender of the Imperial fleet, Commander Thompson stood on the observation deck of Harmony Station, Earth's first major space installation built with the formerly hidden technology. Below her, the blue marble of Earth spun peacefully, while above, stars twinkled with new promise. Tourist ships arriving from the Centauri system, Captain Ross reported, joining her at the window. Third group this week. Everyone wants to see the world that changed the galaxy. Thompson nodded, watching as the ships approached. They were using the new hybrid drives, combining Earth's alternative technology with the safer, shielded version of quantum propulsion. How's Admiral Reed's peacekeeping mission going? Surprisingly well, Ross replied, checking his tablet. His fleet just stopped a pirate attack in the Orient sector. Didn't fire a single shot, just used the quantum observation field to disable their drives. The pirates surrendered immediately. A small smile crossed Thompson's face. He's learned our methods well. Commander, a young officer approached with a datapad. The latest reports from the Galaxy-wide Education Initiative. 23 more worlds have completed their basic quantum physics training. They're ready to receive their defensive satellites. Thompson reviewed the numbers. In just 1 year, over 200 worlds had joined Earth's defensive network. Each received both the quantum observation technology and the shields to protect against it. The balance of power had shifted from conquest to cooperation. "Dr. Wilson is asking for you in the research lab," Ross added. "Says she has something interesting to show you." In the station's advanced physics lab, Dr. Wilson was working with a team of scientists, both human and alien. The room was filled with holographic displays showing complex quantum equations. "Ah, Commander," Wilson waved her over excitedly. "Remember how we thought we were clever using quantum observation as a defense? Well, our new friends here had some fascinating ideas about using the same principle for faster-than-light communication." Thompson looked at the displays. "Is it working?" "Better than we imagined," Wilson beamed. "By combining their knowledge with ours, we've created something entirely new. Instant communication across any distance, completely secure and impossible to intercept." "The galaxy is changing so fast," Thompson mused. "Sometimes I wonder if we did the right thing, sharing our technology so freely." "You did," a familiar voice said behind her. Admiral Reed had entered the lab, his uniform now bearing both his Imperial rank and Earth's peacekeeping force insignia. "I've seen it firsthand. Worlds that used to live in fear of conquest are now building universities. Trading ships travel without armed escorts. Former enemies work together on scientific projects." He gestured to the lab, where humans and aliens worked side by side. "This is what real power looks like. Not the ability to destroy, but the ability to create, to understand, to bring people together." Thompson's communicator beeped. "The Council is ready for your report," Ross reminded her. The Council chamber was another new addition to the station. Representatives from all member worlds gathered here, either in person or via hologram, to discuss matters affecting the galaxy. As Thompson prepared her report on the latest developments, she remembered that day 1 year ago when Earth's trap had sprung. Their victory had not come from superior firepower or clever battle tactics. It had come from understanding. Understanding quantum mechanics, understanding the nature of power, and most importantly, understanding that the greatest victories don't require any fighting at all. "The galaxy remains at peace," she began her report to the assembled council. "Trade is up 40%. Scientific cooperation has yielded breakthroughs in medicine, energy, and space travel. The former Imperial fleet, now our peacekeeping force, has prevented 12 potential conflicts through demonstration of quantum observation technology alone." She looked around the chamber, at faces that had once been enemies and were now allies. "But our greatest achievement isn't in our technology or our defenses. It's in what we've learned together. That the most powerful force in the universe isn't quantum mechanics or massive fleets. It's the simple act of choosing to understand rather than to fear, to protect rather than to conquer, to unite rather than to divide." And in the space above Earth, ships from 100 worlds moved peacefully through the stars, their quantum drives shielded, their weapons silent, their crews no longer afraid of what lay in the darkness between stars.